Welcome to Executive Access, your home for real talk with industry leaders. I am your host, Jamie Tazi. Today, I am speaking with Adam Curran with Curran Financial Partners, a wealth management firm based in Charleston, South Carolina, focusing on retirement planning. I spoke to Adam about his entrepreneurial journey, and you will enjoy hearing his very unique story. Most of what we talked about is leading with conviction. Adam is clear on his values and unapologetic about how he shares them. I respect leaders who lead authentically. I see that this creates trust with team members and in the marketplace, and for the person, a way to live a more fulfilled life. We end our discussion with a discussion about mid to late stage career professionals contemplating a major transition. Some of my listeners may not love Adam's message. He calls himself a God-fearing, flag-waving conservative. But no matter what your personal views, I believe that living and leading more authentically is something that each of us should ponder personally, and I respect Adam and his message. Let's dive in. Adam, welcome to the Executive Access. Super thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm off to a good start already.
We didn't tape any of that pre-conversation, so we're in good shape.
Okay, good.
So growth mindset question. I geek out on growth mindset. What are you doing these days to learn and grow?
Yeah, I'm a John Maxwell guy, and his whole, he's written like 20 books on leadership, and but his whole thing is surround yourself. The 5 people that you surround yourself with are the summation of the level of success that you'll have. So I'm just always trying to put myself in positions where I'm uncomfortable and put myself with people who are got a bigger worldview than me and are doing bigger and better things than me. So I don't want to be transactional with people and judge people by how much money they have or their status, but always trying to put myself in rooms with people that are doing things that are bigger than me.
I love that.
That's what I'm doing here, Jamie.
That's what you're doing here with me. All right. Well, thank you for that. By the way, I am super interested in this podcast and all the things I'm doing professionally, but also like this other side of me is I'm ready to launch 3 almost adult, like teenage sons into the world. And literally 2 nights ago, my husband and I were talking about the people that your kids are surrounded with are probably the most important thing. Jeff asked me, he's like, what would be the biggest parenting advice that you would give somebody having your successes and your learnings? And I'm like, pay attention to who your kids hang out with and be a little bit more, I don't know, judgy about that early on when they're young. I wasn't judgy enough, I don't think, in all cases, and I would have been judgier.
I got 4 kids, 7 and under. I got 7, 5, 3, and 1. And I already see it just with like the language and the cadence of how they talk, just kind of replicating their friend network, which isn't bad right now. They're still young and innocent, but I can totally see that being like an issue if it's not properly curated.
And even like, I don't want to create an impression that like my kids hung around with bad kids. My kids always had great friends, but like, were they hanging around with ones that were like pushing them? Were they the ones that were being pushed by their friends? I don't know. In all cases, something to think about. So anyway, John Maxwell, parenting professionally, amazing. All right. So I have been dying to have you on this podcast. I listen to you on the radio every week coming back from church, and we've met once or twice.
God help you. I hear that. I listen to you on the way to the church or on the way home from church. It's like that's like kind of a polarized view of the world between me and what your pastor's probably giving out.
No, not at all. I really want to talk to you about conviction because it got me thinking a lot about leadership. But before we go there, tell me about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit. So you grew up in Connecticut. You were on the Philadelphia Stock Exchange early in your career, worked for a hedge fund, and then you find yourself in South Carolina.
You missed a big part there.
I did?
So
Tell me.
So my dad was always on the chopping block. He worked at a big, defense contractor, publicly traded company. And based on how much pork got put in a recent piece of legislation, like every 2 years, we were waiting for him to come home and let us know if he got laid off or he kept his job. So because of that level of stress in my life financially, money was always the topic of conversation at kitchen table. Kitchen table looked just like this too.
Nice.
And so my mom started her own company as a professional clown. So I grew up in a household where my mother was a clown and my dad was a mechanical engineer. And because of my job, my dad's job security or insecurity, he was always talking about, how much money was in their emergency fund, what the 401k balance was. My mom would come home and talk about how she did 4 parties and, the kids were spoiled brats, but you got a big tip, and it was always money, and it was probably the topic of conversation out of, scarcity within our own house, and I knew very early on that I was never going to be at the disposal of some company doing layoffs because they didn't meet their quarterly number. So I always wanted to dictate my own destiny. I answered my phone growing up, Sparkles the Clown, how can I help you? My mom had 2 different parties. I'd have a big map with a compass, and if it was in one circle, it was one price, and she had like a party where she did animal balloons and a magic show, and then another party where she did face painting. Like, I knew all the price structures. My first job was twisting animal balloons for a nickel a piece. So
Nice.
as crazy as that sounds, and it's funny, I learned entrepreneurial skills from a very, very, very young age. And I knew early on that I wanted to, dictate my own destiny. So as bizarre as it may sound, I bet you never had a guess like that. Mother being a professional clown ultimately probably set me off on my entrepreneurial journey. The fact that money was so scarce in my household sent me on the path of money management. So you put those 2 things together, it all makes sense.
It does make sense. Well, I had to digress for a second. Can you just tell me 2 more minutes about your mom? What is a professional clown like, or what is your mom like?
She's never worked a day in her life,
She loves it.
and
Okay.
hindsight, growing up, like, I was tortured, like all
like
the
your
rage
mom's
now
a
is like,
clown.
don't bully kids. Like, look at Adam, he turned out all right. Like, got bullied his whole life. I've heard every clown joke. My phone, like every other phone call, was a prank call. Like, you just learn to grow thick skin and learn to like mix it up with that type of stuff. But hindsight, now that I'm older, now that I have 4 kids, 7 and under, she spent her entire life making kids laugh and smile. Is there anyone you've ever encountered who lived a more worthwhile life? Like,
Mm-mm.
yeah, so that's Mom. She's in Pawleys Island now. And she still does it. Like, she still will go to like a local neighborhood, get together and do face painting. Like, she can't give it up. There's probably all kinds of baggage that I carry to this day because of it. Like, I'm a head case. But, reflecting back on it, like, what better life's calling? We're going to talk about purpose and significance today. And, someone out in Silicon Valley with a couple $1,000,000 and their 401k is having a difficult time finding themselves, with all due respect. Mom making kids laugh, getting picked on, like, that's a significant life.
That is a significant life. For sure. Amazing. All right. So then you came down to South Carolina, and is that when you started your business?
No. I started my business. Well, like you said, I was a runner on the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. And then I worked my way onto like a desk, and then I moved into the hedge fund industry. And at the hedge fund, you had to have $20 million to invest in the firm, or in order to engage with this firm. You had to have $20 million of investable assets. And not many people had 21. Most people had hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's a kind of surreal moment when you realize that someone with $100 million is coming to the son of a clown for investment advice. Wall Street's the only place people take limousines to get advice from people who rode the subway. And that was
so funny.
Very telling there. And I had like a 2-week period of time in Philly where I had my car broken into, my car stolen, and then I walked in my house and there was like kids with guns in my house.
What?
And I was like, to hell with this place. Moved out to Park City, Utah. They don't have a trading floor in Park City, Utah. They don't have big hedge funds out there. They do now. They didn't when I moved there. So I started doing kitchen table financial planning. And that's where I started my firm, out in Utah. And then my mom got dealt a cancer diagnosis. She is still with us. She's cancer free. But I wanted to be closer to my family. I wanted to be like a car ride away. So we went on a family vacation to Isle of Palms. I signed a lease, not knowing a soul. That was about 14 years ago. And Charleston's where all the growth happened. Charleston, where the company went from me to, now we're a team of about 30. We manage under advisement about $1 billion, and got an office in Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and down in Bluffton. So.
And primarily,
God bless America.
God bless America. I love that story. By the way, did you know I grew up right outside of Philadelphia? I did not have such a colorful story as your experience because I didn't live in the city, but I lived there. And my other...
where were you at?
I was in Delaware County.
Okay.
Delco, Is there a show about
where's your Delco accent?
I lost it. I went very deliberately lost it. I went to Boston College and met a bunch of friends from California, picked up more of a
You must not fit
accent.
in Delco anymore, because there's some people who just never left Delco.
You know, I went back for my high school reunion. I had a blast.
Okay.
You can never really leave Delco.
For those that don't know, Delco are some of the funnest people on the face of the earth.
Best people.
Yes.
Like kindest people, and some people I hadn't reconnected with in years, where you just felt like you could just pick it right back up. You know, it's what you see is what you get in Delco. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, I got some buddies in Key West right now from Delco, and they just like, I'm worried about my secondary emergency fund and like properly funding my kids' college expenses and stuff. And they're just like, do you got enough money to go to the bar? Cool, let's go. You know, like there's something to be learned from that.
Yes, I agree. Well, and then Jeff and I bought a place down here because we came on vacation. We're like, we love it here. Time to do something a little road less traveled.
That was a brave move, though. Y'all moved right across the whole darn country, didn't you?
Well, we were living in D.C. at the time, but yeah, we brought the grandkids down there. The grandparents were like, what are you doing?
Did you spend some time out in Washington?
Jeff did, but I didn't.
Okay,
when we were at Microsoft, I resisted the pull to the mothership.
Good for you.
Yeah. So. Well, for you though, I'm always so impressed by entrepreneurs. I spent most of my career in big companies. How did you go? Like, tell me some of the learning journeys from a leadership perspective, going from you doing financial planning around your table to now a firm of 30.
Yeah, I had some really good, I guess you would say, and bad mentors. But the bad ones I learned probably just as much from as the good ones, yes. Right? Because if I just had nothing but mentors who did everything in life right, I wouldn't be an entrepreneur. I would be an employee of them, right? So sometimes I feel bad for some of the individuals in my office because we run such a tight ship and everything is like buttoned up with systems and processes. It's like, why would you ever want to be an entrepreneur? Because you're going to get paid well here and have stability and the Elon Musk quote, being an entrepreneur is staring out into the abyss and eating glass. Like, so I was almost forced into entrepreneurship by having some mentors who were great people, kind of make some bad decisions and, not have processes and systems. And, I kind of bore witness to what they were doing. And I said, man, if they can do it, then I can do it. And I could do it even better because I'm going to manage the money better and the payroll better and all this. So, choosing my words as to not throw anyone under the bus, but I learned a lot from people not doing things perfect. Also learned a lot from some great mentors who came in and taught me, how the grass can truly be greener on the other side if things are done really well. When I moved to Charleston, like I also learned early on, like let's just like call a spade here. I'm like unemployable. The very, very first proper employee review I had of myself, where someone like truly unpacked my pros and cons. Hey, you can work on this. And they did it marvelously. It was a compliment sandwich. It was like, hey, you're good at this, could really use some help working on this, but you're really great at this. I quit 2 weeks later. Like I couldn't get over like the criticism of their little thing. Even though I'm like the biggest critic of myself. So I guess I'm an entrepreneur because I'm unemployable. But
did you not believe what they were saying, or you just didn't like what was it?
I think that, a lot of corporations, your boss guy is your boss guy because they're 4 years older than you. Which there's something to be said about tenure. You're going to gain access to more transactions. And my boss guy was supposed to be my boss guy. Don't get me wrong here. But, sometimes you look at people and you're like, you're not that bright. Like, what are you doing passing judgment on me? But here we go. And this is like the son of a clown coming out right now. You're like going to be my shrink for the next hour, if that's okay with you. We're just going to unpack all of my trauma.
It's really why I was so excited to have you on, right? So, I spent my time in corporate and loved every minute of it. It was great. I learned so much, but there was an element of it that is you go along to get along a little bit. You sort of get your marching orders. I mean, you look at, where I came from. If the senior leader starts wearing, sneakers with his, jacket and jeans, next thing you know, everybody's doing the same thing, right? Or if there are certain policies that get put in place, and if you're like, oh, I don't really agree with that, but everybody else seems to be, you just say, okay, and you go along. When I listen to you and you talk about your values and your convictions, right? And I hear the things you say, sometimes I look at Jeff and I'm like, did he really just say that? Not because, some of the things you say are kind of way out there, but not because anything you say.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for that.
Way out there in the sense of wow, that was really something. But not because it's not anything that people are thinking, but that just doesn't happen. And I think to myself, well, have I been bold enough in my leadership? That's what it gets me thinking. Have I been, it's all the things that I tell the people that I coach, that I try to be as a leader, know your values, stick with your values, lead with conviction. But when I hear you speak sometimes, I'm in awe because I'm like, but do I really boldly lead in that way? And that's why I wanted to have you on here to talk about that.
Well, your last podcast was really great. I listened to it on the way down. It was all about authenticity. And it's funny, it hit close to home. I was like, I hope this doesn't steal my thunder. I did a podcast. It was really well attended by financial advisors. And the topic of the podcast was how to be authentic. And I was like, this is the stupidest podcast and title I've ever heard in my entire life. So you want me to talk for an hour about how to not pretend you're something you're not? You want to do a 1 hour deep dive into how to not be a wankster, how to not fake it? But that's what everyone's doing. And it's annoying. It's gross. You could smell it from a mile away. And it's just, I cannot stand it. So it took me a little bit to get there, right?
Were you ever that way yourself, do you think? Or
yeah, because
partially?
when you're growing your financial planning practice, you're casting big nets. You want everyone to like you. You don't want to be controversial.
Yeah.
So, anyone with a pulse is like, hey, come on in, come through my little planning process. I'll tell you that the switch that was flicked, if you want to get real fast, it was during the Black Lives Matter rals in Charleston. Were you all here for that?
We were, yeah.
Okay, right. So you remember Tecklenburg did the stand down orders, and the police were basically just made a barricade on King Street, and they were letting people blow off steam on Upper King, and they were destroying businesses. They were throwing bricks through windows. My favorite little restaurant, Fuel, got set on fire. And I got a little platform at my little talk radio show, and I said, I'm going to use this thing to call it as I see it, because Lord knows NBC News and CBS and all the little men wearing makeup on TV weren't doing it. So I'm going to do it on my little platform. And man, did the phones ring. People started calling up, and there was many moments where I, just get this out right off the get. I'm a God-fearing, flag-waving conservative person, and I shouldn't be ashamed of that, right? And I don't care if you're a bleeding heart liberal. You deserve to live a wonderful life too, but I'm not going to feel ashamed of my worldview and the things I believe. So I'm going to use my platform to scream from the highest mountaintop that the American dream is alive and well, right? Son of a clown manages $1 billion. Hey, what's up? You can still do that in this country. I've also got a unique perspective where I sit down at kitchen tables like this, and I've talked to thousands upon thousands of people, many of them first-generation Americans, many of them grown up in a single-family household. And this idea that we're all victim, this idea that you can't get your taste in this country is not true. It's not rooted in fact. So I'm going to take my little platform, and I'm going to shine a light on what I know to be true. I'm going to shine a light on things that from my world experience, I know is factual in nature. And it was the BLM stuff that really got to me, because I was like, this ain't right. These are small businesses. Most of these businesses, food and bev businesses, margins that are razor thin. The success level of a food and bev operation is I don't know why anyone would even do it. There's some business advice for you right there. And, their little American dreams were getting destroyed. And it was based off of, insert blah here. So
you said your that was a moment in time for you. You said your phone started ringing. What were people saying? Were they like, how dare you say that? Were they like, sign me up to be a client? Like what?
So for every one person who sent me a piece of hate mail, 10 people said, preach. Thank you for saying that. Right. And oddly enough, it's the one piece of hate mail. I have a drawer in my desk of all the hate mail, and it's getting bulky. And for whatever reason, I keep the hate mail because like it's almost like they think it's gonna like take the wind out of my sails. But anytime I need a little shot in the arm, I'll read it, and it's like, okay, let's go. Let's bother Nancy in Merle's Inlet. Let's go hard on her today because she told on me with the county counselor or whatever the names are. So, but overwhelmingly, for every one piece of hate mail you get 10 people saying like, thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly the conversation that was going on in my head. And I'm glad there's people like you out there like saying it. So, authenticity, right? Like everyone should just say exactly what they think and not keep it to themselves, and the whole world would probably be a better place.
And my understanding, the reason you weren't like that before that moment in time was just the fear of what that might do to your business or turning like casting a smaller net, or
if we're being honest, true, probably, right? Like just because my mentors, the people I looked up to, that's not how they behaved. Like those people, financial people are supposed to be like politically, eunuchs. I said eunuch. I didn't even get a reaction out of your.
I think maybe because I'm used to you.
Okay, got you. So
there's people everywhere listening that are like rewinding. They're like, "Did he say eunuch?"
Bring out the eunuch for financial advice. We need the eunuch in here, who has no worldview at all. He's so unbiased. Like, no. So, I'm raising families. I'm helping people reach their goals. I'm involved in the most important decisions of their life around their money. Why wouldn't I want them to know my true self, right? Now, a great deal of you are going to go like, I don't want this bleeding heart, Bible-thumping conservative in the room while I make a big decision. Good. Then go work with someone who shares your worldview. But, most of the people who plug into our company have a similar mindset.
I want to talk about that in a second. I'll tell you what it does for me. I'm so attracted by the authenticity, right? And I love that you also say, and it's okay if you don't agree with me. If you're a liberal, you should be just as equally authentic and put your stuff out there in the world as well. I think, the authenticity is what attracts people, customers, like-minded people to work with, across the board. I'm wondering, and I'm getting more and more like this. I came from the corporate world, which I always, I'm not going to criticize myself. I was always thought authentic, and I led very authentically and increasingly so as I led. But there was a lot in my head that I kept to myself. My faith, I never talked about my faith, right? I didn't want to offend anybody. What if somebody has a different faith than I do? And so I'm trying to get more and more like that. But even some of the clients I engage with, like I was on the school board of Porter-Gaud, an amazing school, and I was really pressing us to get really clear on our mission statement, and we revised the mission statement. And I would always say in the board meetings, I think I can say this, not confidential, just we need to be clear on who we are. Because if we're not clear on who we are, we will be like a ship getting tossed in the waves, right? And it may be that when we declare who we are, we might not be the right place for a lot of people that may want to send their kids to school in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was like, and that's fine. And that was a really big turning point for me. But I do see a lot of this sort of like, well, we just kind of want to live in the middle, right? But in doing so, you really, you miss an opportunity to really connect with people, with customers, with,
you also get banished from polite society. It's not all like peaches and cream. Like there are people who avoid me on my little island. I live on Daniel Island. There are people who know my wife and I are like off, like don't talk to them because that's what they are. But good. We might as well get that out of the way sooner rather than later. Again, not that I wish you any ill will or harm, but if that's how you're going to make your choices as to who you spend your time and energy efforts with, like, good, let's get it out of the way sooner rather than later. And I was his Porter-Gaud. It's a perfect example.
Yeah. And they're doing great work. And we updated the mission statement, and I think is getting really clear. I will say, that we miss an opportunity. It's actually fun and enjoyable to get to know people's perspective. You have an opportunity to learn and to talk to somebody that maybe thinks very differently than you on a lot of fronts. But to get real for me, like to the extent that you're comfortable sharing, when you started going down this path of just saying, you know, I'm a God-fearing, flag-waving, unapologetic conservative, what implication did that have for business? The good, the bad, and the ugly?
You know, we lost a few clients. We lost a few team members. Not immediately. I think it just kind of wore them out. And, you know, this country is politically sick right now, unfortunately, on the left and the right. So we lost a few clients and we lost a few team members, but we gained a heck of a lot more by way of clients and assets. And the individuals who stayed with my firm, most all of them, quite frankly, and the individuals we've hired since then, were able to kind of almost jump through a hurdle that I didn't have to like lay out or Colby test through or do some sort of zany, like have an awkward conversation. You know, before an individual comes and works with our company, we'll literally just go, hey, I need you to listen to this radio show. And we picked out a radio show that's just like, ooh, that's going to bother a lot of people. So, you know, and, you know, I got this whole soliloquy. I don't want to just work with Republicans. I don't care if you vote with your left hand, but you can't be an activist. You can't come in here and be triggered by something that I say on the radio. You got to understand, that this is our main marketing funnel. This is how we get people to pick up the phone and call us up. And if something I say on the radio is going to have you come into the office with a little, just don't listen to it. That's probably a good piece of advice for them. But if something I say is going to bother you, like it's just not going to fit in here, because the individuals who called into the office are people who the messaging resonated with. So there's a lot of companies doing it too. You know, I think it's becoming more and more popular for companies to do it, but you don't hear it a lot on the right. You see it more on the left.
Well, I listened to, I think your message last week or the week before was just around like how 80% of investing is emotional, right? And so I think when I've said this before, when you show your authentic self, it builds trust with people. And I would think that trust from investing in financial instruments with somebody would be high on the list of a reason why to invest.
Well, man, I went in your building today, which is beautiful. And I was looking at like the directory, and there's like 5 to 7 different financial advisors, right? Like, and everyone likes to position themselves as like, oh, I'm an independent, I'm a fiduciary, I work at, you know, XYZ company, we have access to the best funds. And, you know, everyone is, likes to build this like, you know, image of themselves as if they're God's gift to financial planning. The truth of the matter is I'm an independent fiduciary. We all are running around selling the same stuff. We're all running around with the same toolbox, the same financial instruments that we have at our disposal. Now, everyone has different degrees of excellence and mastery. So obviously you want to work with people who know their stuff, got great experience. But after that, if it's a 50-50 ball, if it's like, hey, I'm discerning who I want to work with, this one or that one, show me the real stuff. Right? I want to know what you really are like when you're not at this little financial planning table putting on your performance. Because that's what it is. It's pageantry, really. Look at this dumb suit I'm wearing, right? Like, I wear this because my clients deserve it. But I know it's dumb and I know it's stupid. And our office is beautiful, and the warm cookies and the coffee machine is excellent. Like, it's all like a performance to a certain degree. And that performance is important because people expect it, and how you do anything is how you do everything. And if people are making decisions with their life savings, they deserve someone who's looks the part, is in the right type of office, was greeted right. All those little things matter to me, but it's all performative to a certain degree. So if you're running around expressing your true feelings, this sounds so ridiculous. That individual knows that they're getting the real you when they're actually talking to you. So the good, the bad, the ugly, you're giving out advice. You want someone who on the other side of the table is shooting you straight. So best compliment we get is like, you tell it how it is, right? And that's tells me I'm on the right path.
Absolutely. You know, you started the God Bless America ETF 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And at first when I heard that, I'm like, oh, of course, because he wanted to create something, this is my assumption, that is around his values, right?
Mhm.
But when I learned more about it and I heard you speak to it, it actually fits very heavily into what I love to see is like a customer obsession, right?
Mhm.
My understanding is that you created that because you were responding to the needs of the clients that came in and what they were asking for. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Newsflash to all the like bleeding heart liberals out there. People who vote with their right hand are kind of sick and tired of investing their money in companies that think they're unenlightened, investing their money into companies that, look at them through their nostrils. What was the old Microsoft? I'm a middle-aged man wearing a green suit, and I want to thank the Musquamish and the Blackfoot Indians. Remember, you know what I'm talking about, right? You don't?
I don't think so,
Oh
no.
my gosh.
But I mean, I've heard things like that
I'll
before.
share it with you. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
anyways, it's just, that one's too easy. People who vote with their right hand want to invest in the stock market. They recognize that the capital markets here in the United States are a source of wealth generation unlike any other machine on the face of the earth. But they don't really feel good about investing money in Nike or Microsoft or Target or Disney or companies that are just going out of their way with their marketing, with their social media handles, with their PR apparatuses to post and say things that trounce on a God-fearing, flag-waving conservative's belief. So we basically, I had a conversation with a client, and the client said to me, Adam, I want to invest in the market. I want my returns to be similar to that of the S&P, but I don't want to support these companies that think I'm dumb. So I just went about the process of sorting through all the hot button issues that have crossed the newswire over the last 5 years. Georgia's election reform bill, Florida's parental rights and education bill, the Roe v. Wade ruling, the stakeholder capital business roundtable pledge, all of these things that shocking to see how many publicly traded companies called Florida's parental rights and education bill the Don't Say Gay bill. Shocking to see how many publicly traded companies called Georgia's election reform Jim Crow 2.0. Even though we've had 2 election cycles since its passing, record voter turnout, record minority voter turnout. So if you decided to call that Jim Crow 2.0, you were not in the business of delighting customers, separating them from their money, in creating widgets that advance civilization. You were in the business of activism. So if you're in the business of activism, we boycott you from our investment universe. And so anyways, I sorted through the S&P 500. Turns out, like everything in life, it was a vocal minority. It was a small percentage of the companies that were actually needed boycotting. About 200 of them, though. So I guess it's more than a small minority. It's a decent chunk of them. We just created a fund that, when I designed it, it was supposed to mirror the S&P 500. And it's coming up on 3 years. We're beating the S&P 500 by like 30%.
I'm like, did you beat it? Yeah.
Oh, we're slaughtering it. And it's doing really, really well. So I'm starting to drink my own Kool-Aid. I'm like, oh, maybe businesses that are focused on business and not activism is a wise way to find alpha. It's a wise way to invest your money. So yeah, we created the fund based on a single conversation I had with an individual. And the rest is history. It's really, really cool thing. Got to ring the bell, and that was like a dream come true.
I saw your video on that. I loved it. It was fantastic. I wonder how this episode is reaching people right now. If you are more conservative, maybe you're great. If you're liberal, maybe everything is offending you. But I think the big thing that I wanted to pull out of this, and why I really respect your leadership, is really going there around being very clear about your values, understanding what's important to your clients, and creating value around those things that is not only enabling you, I would assume, to live a really purposeful life in the way that your thought is, but it's actually creating a fantastic business as well. And so That's what I hope people are taking out of this, no matter what side of the aisle they're on or what piece they agree with or don't disagree with
I
in this
could tell you
conversation.
right now how this episode is going. Everyone who votes with their left hand has already turned it off. Everyone who
Never
votes...
to return to listen to me again.
Everyone who votes...
No,
and here's the other thing about the people who vote with their left hand. You'll get an email from them saying, how dare you put a platform out there for that misogynist, racist, narcissist, all the ugliest words in the English language. Sorry to do this to you. You could edit it all out. But the people who vote with their right hand are going to go, man, that was really cool. I like that dude, right? And there's something to be gleaned from that, right? Even if you are, left-handed voter and you're still listening to this, like, you want to be, I'll use the word again, like, do you want to be the Switzerland of financial planning when there's 7 financial planners in this building? Not me. Like, I want to be the America of financial planning. Like, I want to choose a darn side and dig in and plant my heels in the ground.
So let me ask you this. So some people might say, okay, well, it's all well and good. Adam can do whatever he wants. He's he owns his own business. It's his business. I work in a big company. I could never be quite as bold. And I would say there's always an opportunity to live a little bit more authentically and bring that authenticity to work. What advice would you give to somebody that might say, yeah, I love how you're living so authentically, but it's your business. I've got to go to work for, in a different situation.
I'd be a bit of an imposter because I just told you I'm unemployable by saying this, but we've had some individuals who work in our office and most recently during it seems like I'm like all I think about is politics. I really don't. But most recently in the election, they said, like, I didn't vote for Trump. I don't like him. Right? Cool.
These are employees on your team?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Great.
So glad you said that. Like, it shows me you have a spine. There's probably something to be said about that too. It would shock you how few spines there are around polite society, right? So if you did just run around kind of expressing the way you truly believe, you probably are going to offend way less people than you think. And those individuals who you do offend will probably just like kind of mutter to themselves and stammer off. So I'll tell you a book that had a big impact on my life. Ray Dalio's Principles. So Ray Dalio runs the largest hedge fund on the face of the earth. And if you see how he runs Bridgewater, it's all about radical truthfulness, radical honesty, because we're trying to create an idea of meritocracy. We're trying to create an environment where the best ideas win. We're not trying to tiptoe around everyone's feelings around the foosball table. Like, let's just get to the truth. So the sooner it comes out, the sooner people can cast you into whatever bucket that they're going to cast you into. Also, the lion's share of civilization is just thinking about themselves. They don't really care about you all that much.
That's so true. I would say, having lived for a long time, most of my career in that world, I would say it's really important that you really buy into and believe in the values and the mission of the organization that you're working with and for. If not,
heck yeah,
man. So how can you, within that value structure and within that mission structure, just lean a little bit more, one step closer into your authentic self? So for example, Microsoft has a value around open and respectful. We are open and respectful. And I always love those things together because it says we're going to be open, which means I'm just going to say it like it is. But because it says and respectful, we're going to add and we're going to be respectful as we do that. I love those two together. So how can you be a little bit more authentic and still be open and respectful, right? For me, looking back, I wish I would have been much more transparent and talked about my faith more, because it's like almost like I came to work and I checked that at the door, some big part of my life, right? So maybe that's just a call to action for those listening. Like, how can I just make sure that I'm leaning into that authenticity? I might not be ready to talk about all of my political views or whatever the case may be, but there's something to be learned from what you're out there doing.
I think your senior team members, if they're any good, would appreciate your
I agree.
authenticity, right? Because I'll tell you, right, now that the company's had a little bit of success in my little own head, you just get compliments all the time. Oh, it's so great. Or Adam, I listen to the radio. Like, the good stuff from my perspective is when someone craps on you and they're like, oh man, I didn't like that. Or your phone doesn't answer quick enough, or your new office, the directions weren't clear on how to get there.
Like an opportunity to improve.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're getting led by good leaders, they want to get knocked down and cut down a few rungs. So, I mean, if you're authentic and you're running around telling people exactly the way you think, I think if you're led well, you're going to get good feedback from that. I would hope, but I can't guarantee that.
So I would be totally missing the mark if I didn't try to get some good like financial retirement advice while I have you here, like sequestered in our studio. I'm curious if you're seeing any changes in the way that people are retiring. Because what I don't know is am I just in my own little bubble of people that I talk to who are starting to near retirement, but it feels different than maybe 30 years ago or 20 years ago, or when my, parents and grandparents retired. My friends and people I talk to are ready to start, stepping off the major train that they've been on, the big, corporate jobs, the fast pace, the travel. But the idea of retirement, which is, fully, not working at all is different. A lot of conversations around success to significance, passing around the halftime book or strength to strength and things like that. Are you seeing any difference in terms of what people are thinking about as they move to retirement?
Well, y'all are like Trent said, y'all were FIRE movement people before the FIRE movement existed, right? Financial independence, retire early.
Oh, right. Okay.
So there was that going around. Unfortunately, the people who took, most of the people who gravitated towards the FIRE movement, when it first burst on the scene, were in like their 20s and 30s. They're all now having kids, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to." I was one of them. I could speak for the people. I speak for the trees. I started having kids, and I said to myself, I could retire right now, but what kind of role model would I be to my kids if Daddy drank too much rum and played golf again? So I said, got to do something to continue to grow. I think we're, goal seeking entities, and we got to find things to grow. But anyways, has mindsets changed about retirement as of late? Yeah, I think, I hate to bring up COVID, but COVID, I think, caused, obviously a lot of people to migrate to different places. And it has people, I think, looking at their job less as their, religion, and more as just the place I go to make money. And I think most of the individuals we work with are in their 60s and 70s, so they're still comfortably baby boomers. But we're starting to see more people in their 50s kind of creep into the office because they want to go to the retirement guy. The people in their 60s and 70s are still caught up in what happens is I can't retire till I'm 65 because that's when Medicare kicks in, and I got to work a few more years because insert financial fear here, inflation, financial unrest, and like they are children of parents who grew up in the Great Depression, so they got that. Then you got like the Gen Xers, right? You're Gen X.
Yep.
That's what you are.
Yep.
So Gen Xers are like drank from a garden hose. They can make anything work, right?
Yeah.
Like you weren't getting a trophy. Like my generation, I think I'm like an early millennial. We all got trophies and we're all wimps. But Gen Xers, I find, just wetting my finger and sticking it in the air, recognize that you can retire on way less than what baby boomers think you need. And naturally, the armchair experts who write articles in Forbes and do yourself a favor. Next time you see an article about financial planning in Forbes or the Wall Street Journal, like click on the name and read the person's bio. They're all starving artists. They've never sat knee to knee with someone and talked about money. Like they're just, they're writing about, how bad capitalism is in Starbucks, drinking a $10 cup of coffee on a $3,000 laptop. So what the experts are saying is Gen X needs more money than they think, right? There's this idea of I need more money, otherwise I'm going to have to welcome people to Walmart and eat cat food. That's not happening to anyone, hardly anyone that I see. Right? Now, are there people who are blowing through their money, they have nothing saved, and they're living off Social Security? Unfortunately, yes. Right? But people who come into my office, people who actually have a little bit of wealth, what they do is they work longer than they have to. They peck at their money like chickens because they're worried about all of these different financial fears that cloud their mind and judgment. And then they die with millions of dollars. They die with hundreds of thousands of dollars more than they should have.
I always hear you encouraging people to live now while you can. Like live, use your money, be thoughtful, come plan with us. But that makes sense.
You were at Microsoft, right? Like, so it's all about optimization. You're finding like streamlines and project management of time, energy, efforts. Like your money is ultimately like just the fruit of your energy and efforts. You should utilize your money in a way. A wise man leaves money to his children's children. I get that. But what is the sense of, reaching this peak of retirement, having $1 million, and then pecking at your money like a chicken and then being 85 with $2 million? Like, that's idiotic. That doesn't make a lick of sense. Unless your goal in life is to leave a sizable amount of money to charities. But even then, I think if you are naming, wings of hospitals after yourself, you might have tried too hard. You could have retired sooner, with all due respect. What happens, and I see this out of Gen X, and it's encouraging to me. Gen X recognize that, like, hey, I got a couple $1,000,000 here. I can retire so long as you're not riddled with debt. So long as your hobbies aren't equestrian horses and sailboats, you can typically retire sooner than you ever thought possible and with way less money than you ever thought possible. That's what I'm seeing out of Generation X. The jury's still out on millennials. I don't know what we'll wind up doing.
Interesting. Well, I think that's right. And I would just encourage, my last guest, I was just talking about how I do think there's a lot of people who have achieved some success in their careers. And I'm mostly talking about like people in tech that I know, people in, more knowledge worker kind of businesses that are starting to feel that like little bit of discontent. They can easily see a path, 10 more years, the financials all look good, but they're feeling like some discontent. That's where I was. That's where Jeff was. And we decided to make a transition. I think that there's a wave of transition. And if you haven't gotten a really good handle on your financial picture, that might be part of figuring out the puzzle of what are you going to do? How are you going to answer that call around this little bit of, different discontent? The other thing I'll tell you, by the way, I can't wait to go home to tell my kids tonight that you called me fire. I'll be like, I was in a meeting today and Adam called me fire. I think Jamie, you're fire.
That's like a compliment, I think. But in your case, it's an acronym
I know,
for financial nerd.
I'm not telling them that. I'm telling them that you called me fire because every time I use those words, they get all mad. They're like, you can't use those words.
You're definitely not sus, and you're definitely not mid. So fire, I guess you're fire.
I'll take that one. The other thing I'll let you know is something I learned recently. So I have a half sister, Lily. She's amazing. She's graduating from Penn State. And she came to me and Jeff a couple of years ago and she was asking for financial advice from us, right? Like, what is she going to do? She just got her first internship. She was starting to make money. She is so dialed in on this idea of being independently wealthy. By the time she's 40, she's already got her retirement plan started. She went back to Penn State and started talking to all her friends around that, and they're all getting fired up. So part of me was thinking, man, I wasn't thinking about that when I was 22 years old. But there is something about this thinking with the end in mind. I wonder if retirement planning is going to could have an opportunity to take on a whole new walk back.
When I hear about young people who are geeking out on finances, like one part of me, my heart smiles. And then another part of me is like, just go blow your money and, go live in Europe for 3 months.
We're definitely editing that because I do not want my son to hear that.
Yeah, but I'm just kidding. Go live in Europe for 3 months.
Good point.
So I don't know. I'm torn on that one. But yeah, there's so many great little micro investing apps now. You could just put it on autopilot and, there's a whole philosophy about being young. You should spend your money when you're older. And I get compound interest and all that, but don't take me down that rabbit hole. I'll sit here and...
Well, you mentioned the Redalio book. Is there any other books or frameworks from a leadership perspective that have been useful to you?
The best business book, and I've yet to find one any better, and it's The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. There's no book better than that book, and I've read them all. Like, it's the best book. And I think good books you should read multiple times, and, most books you could read the first 15, 20 pages, and you're like, okay, this is going to be this over and over and over again. But The Road Less Stupid is the best business book ever written.
thought you were going to road less traveled, Peck, and then you threw in the stupid. I'm like, okay, you got
Heath
my
Cunningham,
attention.
I think is the name.
Yeah,
I hope I didn't
great.
butcher that.
No, it's great. All right, well, thank you. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you.
I'm very sorry for everything that was said in the last hour.
You know what? I'm excited that you came on. Like I said, I respect how you lead with conviction. I think that everybody can do more of that and should do more of that in their own way, in their own style. It doesn't have to be the Adam Curran style. And so that's why I wanted to have you on here today.
So I did my ETF. It's we boycott woke companies, right? And the ticker's y'all. Right here in Charleston, there was an article written about the ETF. There's a guy who launched an ETF, and the ticker is DEMZ, DEMZ, and it's compiled of companies that, because politicians, all their holdings need to be public knowledge. So it's basically tickers that liberal politicians own. And he's right here in Charleston. And I keep trying to get him on my podcast, but tip my hat to him. I think that's the coolest thing ever that he did that. He put his hat in the arena.
I love that too.
Have him on next, and you'll win back the favor of all the people I offended.
You didn't offend anybody, and if you did, I don't know. I think people need to be open-minded, and if there's one big takeaway, it would just be, you know what? Like, don't be hot or cold. Kind of live into who you are.
Don't be a eunuch.
Values. I'm going to say it my way, open and respectful. Don't be hot or cold.
Are there still eunuchs out there that are offended, do we think?
I don't know. See? But I'm still worried about it.
Okay.
Well, Adam, one last question for you. If you could just wrap by giving just one piece of leadership advice, what would that be?
Goodness. You only get one life. Surround yourself with people that you want to. If you start looking at a time clock as to how much life you get left, you don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of fake people. You want to surround yourself with people that are, they don't have to share your worldview precisely, but you want to surround yourself with people who are trying to get better and do bigger and better things. So that's my advice.
Starting with John Maxwell, ending with a John Maxwell-esque, I love it.
Maybe
so amen to that. I love it.
Thank you.
Adam, thank you so much for spending your time with me.
Thanks
Good luck to you
me.
and your business.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please continue to join us for insider access to executive leadership.